Art is a wonderful way of expressing yourself because it allows you to make anything happen. You're only limited by your imagination, right? Wrong! Well, not entirely, but here's the thing real quick. Art has one rule, and that rule is consistency. You have to obey the rules that you set for yourself. When you're creating any artwork, you're addressing human pattern recognition, right? Which is arguably probably all the brain does. It's a hierarchy of nested pattern recognition machines. So whatever you make has to be a continuation of the rest of it. As the audience experiences the work, they subconsciously extrapolate what they are perceiving and compare it to what came before and what comes after and all around it. Now, I'm not saying that all art has to be a representation of reality or even realistic, just that any pattern, abstractly speaking, that an artwork exhibits must be followed. And if the pattern breaks, that break has to be part of another overarching pattern. So for the most basic example, say you write a song, you put a rhythm to it, and it has beats spaced apart equally, right? That's a pattern. Or say you draw a picture, you set yourself a style, which is usually basically a particular formula for abstracting 3D objects into 2D shapes. Or say you tell a story, you string together events that logically follow one another, right? Now, that's not all there is to each medium, mind you, but there's more of that sort of thing going on. And you can get really complex with your patterns. You can space your notes out differently and switch time signatures and keys and do polyrhythms and all that jazz. You could change the way light works in your visual medium of choice. Like in a video game, that's what a shader does, right? Or writing a story, you can weave multiple stories with multiple characters and timelines into one another and all that stuff. The difficulty then lies in tying it all together into a single coherent artwork, right? And some types of art are right at the cutting edge of that, and some just try to imitate the aesthetic of complex art, such that they may appear to be enigmatic and hard to follow, but in reality, they really are just disjointed nonsense. So, like, sometimes you get a story with a twist that feels shocking, but doesn't quite fit, right? And that shows the problem in a clearer way, I suppose. Like a good twist feels unexpected, but makes sense in the context of the story. So the problem you're always trying to solve is how to make something unexpected and expected at the same time. How to be consistent and yet fresh. So I guess you have to stay on the same path as the audience, but always be a step ahead, if that makes sense. Now, what all this also means is that art can, of course, be assessed objectively, and the measures are consistency and complexity. And in that respect, you could say complexity determines the potential for goodness, and consistency determines the degree to which that goodness potential is reached. At any rate, when someone brings up that argument that the more fantastical the fiction, the less it has to make sense, you now know that person doesn't know the literal first thing about art. Slasher's Keep is a first-person roguelike with a focus on melee combat and loot. It has randomly generated dungeons with orcs, mole rats, and other monsters to fight, lots of loot to find, and a drag-and-drop weapon crafting system. I made it all by my lonesome, and it's available for PC on Steam.